Hey there. You know what's crazy? In a world obsessed with instant success and overnight millionaires, I've got something that's going to blow your mind. What if I told you that the most powerful leadership lessons don't come from modern CEOs or viral TED Talks, but from a man who lived over 1,400 years ago? Wait, what? Yeah, you heard that right. And here's the thing. These aren't just some ancient wisdom that sounds good on paper. These are practical, life-changing insights that are literally transforming lives right now in 2024. Today, we're diving deep into 5 extraordinary lessons from the life of Prophet Muhammad. And trust me, this isn't your typical history lesson. We're talking about real strategies you can use tomorrow morning to become a better leader, a stronger person, and someone who makes a genuine difference in the world. And here's what makes this special. By the end of this video, you'll have something I call the prophetic leadership framework, a practical system that combines ancient wisdom with modern challenges. Pretty cool, right? But before we jump in, let me ask you something that might seem a bit strange. Have you ever wondered how someone who started life as an orphan became the most influential leader in history? And more importantly, what does that mean for your potential? Hold that thought, because the answer might just change everything you believe about success, leadership, and your own capability to make an impact. And speaking of impact, what we're about to discover is absolutely mind-blowing. Want to know what I mean? Well, let's dive into something that's going to challenge everything you think you know about true leadership. You know how everyone these days is talking about authentic leadership and emotional intelligence? It's like every other LinkedIn post is about being a genuine leader or finding your true path. And honestly, it's getting a bit overwhelming, isn't it? I mean, think about it. We're living in a world where people are desperately searching for real role models. Not those picture-perfect Instagram influencers or those corporate success stories that somehow feel disconnected from reality. No, we're looking for something more, something real. And that's exactly where things get interesting. Because let me tell you something fascinating. While we're all searching for these modern solutions, there's this incredible source of wisdom that's been sitting right there, tested by time, proven by history, and, get this, perfectly applicable to our modern challenges. I mean, think about it. We're living in a world where people are desperately searching for real role models. Not those picture-perfect Instagram influencers or those corporate success stories that somehow feel disconnected from reality. No, we're looking for something more, something real. And that's exactly where things get interesting. Because, let me tell you something fascinating. While we're all searching for these modern solutions, there's this incredible source of wisdom that's been sitting right there, tested by time, proven by history. And, get this, perfectly. You see, the challenges we face today aren't actually that new. Think about it. Are you struggling with imposter syndrome? Guess what? Even the greatest leaders in history dealt with self-doubt. Are you trying to build a team that actually believes in your vision? Well, there's a blueprint for that, and it's been working for centuries. Let me break it down for you. Today, we're going to explore 5 game-changing lessons that are going to transform the way you think about leadership and personal growth. And the best part? These aren't just theories. These are practical, proven strategies that have literally shaped civilizations. We're going to start with something mind-blowing about the power of identity. And trust me, this isn't your typical believe-in-yourself talk. Then, we'll dive into a story of resilience that's going to make you rethink everything you believe about overcoming challenges. But here's where it gets really interesting. We're also going to uncover a leadership approach that's so powerful, it turned enemies into allies. And wait until you hear about the learning method that's so effective, it can literally rewire your brain for success. And just when you think you've heard it all, I'm going to share a practice so simple yet so profound that it could revolutionize your entire approach to success and happiness. But first, let's talk about something that might seem small at first, but trust me, it's absolutely fundamental to understanding everything else we're going to discuss. It's about a name, but not just any name. Ever wondered why names matter so much? I mean, think about it. When someone says your name, it's not just a word, it's your story. And today, we're going to talk about a name that literally means the most praised one. Pretty powerful, right? Muhammad. Let that sink in for a moment. You see, this wasn't just a random name. It was like a prophecy of who he would become. And here's the crazy part. Before Prophet Muhammad, this name was super rare. But today, it's literally the most common name in the world. How's that for impact? But here's where it gets really interesting. The name Muhammad isn't just about being praised. It's about being worthy of praise. And that's where the first big lesson hits home. Your identity shapes your actions. Think about it. When you're named the most praised one, you've got some pretty big shoes to fill, right? And let me tell you, he lived up to it. Big time. Even before he became a prophet, people called him the trustworthy one. Can you imagine having such a strong reputation that your whole community gives you a nickname based on your character? That's some next-level integrity right there. But here's what's really mind-blowing, and this is something you can use right now in your own life. Muhammad showed us that your reputation isn't built by what you say about yourself. It's built by how you show up every single day. Let me give you a modern example. You know how some people on social media call themselves influencers or thought leaders? Well, Muhammad never had to tell people he was trustworthy. He just was. His actions spoke so loud that people couldn't help but notice. And this brings us to your first practical takeaway. What if you lived every day as if your name meant the most trusted or the most reliable? How would that change the way you show up at work, in your relationships, in your personal goals? But wait, because this gets even more interesting when we look at how this principle played out in his early life. And trust me, what happened next is going to completely change how you think about overcoming life's biggest challenges. You see, having a powerful name is one thing, but living up to it when life throws its worst at you, that's where the real story begins. And what happened in his childhood? Well, that's going to blow your mind. Now, imagine being orphaned before you even had a chance to know your parents. Tough, right? Well, that was Muhammad's reality. His father passed away before he was born. His mother left this world when he was just 6 years old. And if that wasn't enough, his grandfather, who took care of him next, died when he was 8. Talk about a rough start. But here's where it gets interesting. You'd think someone who lost so much so early would become bitter or resentful. I mean, that would be pretty understandable, wouldn't it? But instead, something extraordinary happened. These challenges, they didn't break him, they built him. And I'm not just talking about that generic. No, this is way more practical than that. Let me break it down for you. First off, being raised by different caretakers gave him this incredible ability to connect with all kinds of people. Think about it. When you've lived with different families, you learn to adapt, to understand different perspectives, to find common ground. Sound familiar? Yeah, that's exactly what we call emotional intelligence. Today, and here's something that'll blow your mind. Instead of using his orphan status as an excuse, he used it as a superpower. You know how? He developed this amazing sense of empathy. He knew what it felt like to be vulnerable, to feel different, to face challenges alone. And later, he used that understanding to become a leader who could truly connect with anyone, from the wealthiest merchant to the poorest servant. But wait, because this is where it gets really practical for you. Muhammad developed what I call the resilience trinity. First, acceptance without defeat. He accepted his circumstances, but never let them define his future. Second, connection over isolation. He built strong relationships instead of withdrawing from the world. Third, purpose through service. He channeled his experiences into helping others. Now, let me ask you something. When was the last time you faced a challenge that seemed impossible to overcome? Maybe it was losing a job, a relationship ending, or just feeling stuck in life. Well, here's where you can use Muhammad's approach. Instead of asking, "Why me?" which, let's be honest, we all do sometimes, try asking, "What can I learn from this?" Just like Muhammad did, you can turn your challenges into your greatest strengths. But you know what's really crazy? The skills he developed during these tough times became absolutely crucial later in his life. And this is where our story takes an unexpected turn. Because those same qualities, empathy, adaptability, resilience, they became the foundation of his leadership style. A style so effective that it transformed an entire society. And trust me, when you hear about his approach to leadership, it's going to change everything you thought you knew about influencing others. You know what's funny about leadership today? Everyone's trying to find the perfect formula. Read this book, take that course, follow this guru. But what if I told you that the most powerful leadership style was demonstrated centuries ago, and it's so simple it might surprise you? Here's the thing about Muhammad's leadership that's absolutely mind-blowing. He led with something we rarely see today: genuine compassion. Not the kind you put in a corporate mission statement, but the real deal. Let me give you a crazy example. There was this time when his followers were building a mosque in the scorching heat. And what did Muhammad do? He didn't just supervise. He got right in there, carrying heavy rocks alongside everyone else. Can you imagine a CEO today doing that? Actually getting their hands dirty with their employees? But here's where it gets really interesting. His leadership style wasn't just about being nice. It was strategic compassion. And it worked on 3 levels. First, leading by example. He never asked anyone to do something he wouldn't do himself. Talk about walking the walk. Second, emotional awareness. He could read a room better than any modern executive. He knew when someone was struggling before they even said a word. Third, personalized approach. He understood that different people need different types of leadership. Mind-blowing, right? And get this. There was this time when someone made a huge mistake that could have had serious consequences, instead of publicly shaming them, which was the norm back then. And let's be honest, still happens in many workplaces today. He addressed the issue privately, with compassion. But here's the real kicker. This style of leadership, it's not just nice to have, it's actually more effective than the tough, authoritarian approach many leaders default to. Studies show that compassionate leadership leads to higher engagement, better retention, and, wait for it, increased productivity. Now, I know what you might be thinking. That's great for a religious leader, but what about in the real world? Well, hold that thought, because what comes next is going to show you exactly how this applies to your life, whether you're managing a team, running a business, or just trying to influence positive change in your community. And it all starts with something that might surprise you: the way Muhammad approached learning and knowledge. Ready for something that's going to completely flip your perspective on learning? Here's a mind-bending fact. The first word revealed to Prophet Muhammad wasn't about power or success or even prayer. It was read. How crazy is it? And trust me, this is where things get really interesting. Because Muhammad took this command to learn and turned it into something revolutionary. You see, he wasn't just about memorizing facts or collecting information. No, he created what I like to call the knowledge diamond. And it's absolutely brilliant. Let me break this down in a way that'll blow your mind. First off, Muhammad believed that knowledge without action is like a tree without fruit. Useless. But here's the cool part. He didn't just teach this. He lived. Think about this. In today's world, we're drowning in information, right? Podcasts, YouTube videos, online courses, it's over. But Muhammad had this amazing approach that still works perfectly today. Here's how. First, learn it. But not just surface-level stuff. Really understand it. Second, live it. Put that knowledge into practice immediately. Third, teach it. Share what you've learned with others. Fourth, repeat it. And here's what's absolutely crazy. This method, it's backed by modern science. Studies show that teaching something helps you learn it better than just studying. How's that for ancient wisdom meeting modern research? But wait, because this gets even better. Muhammad had this fascinating habit of teaching complex ideas in ways that anyone could understand. He used stories, examples, and real-life situations. Sound familiar? Yeah. That's exactly what the best teachers and leaders do. Here's a mind-blowing example. Instead of giving a long lecture about humility, he once picked up a small branch from the ground and asked, "What's the value of this?" teaching his followers that worldly status was just as insignificant. Simple but powerful, right? Now, here's where you can use this today. Instead of trying to learn everything at once, pick one thing. Just one. Learn it deeply, apply it immediately, and then share it with someone else. Trust me, it's a game changer. But you know what's really fascinating? This approach to knowledge wasn't just about learning. It was about transforming your entire life. And that leads us to something even more powerful: how Muhammad maintained balance and gratitude despite having so much knowledge and influence. You know what's absolutely wild? At the height of his influence, when Muhammad could have had anything he wanted, he chose to sleep on a simple mat, eat basic meals, and give away most of what he received. Mind-blowing, right? But here's the real kicker. He wasn't doing it to show off how humble he was. No, he was teaching us something powerful about success and happiness. Something that modern science is just now catching up to. Get this. He had this beautiful practice of expressing gratitude at least 3 times every day. And guess what? Research now shows that gratitude literally rewires your brain for happiness and success. But here's the most powerful part. His simplicity wasn't about denying himself. It was about finding freedom. Freedom from the endless chase for more. Freedom to focus on what really matters. And speaking of what matters, let me share with you how we can bring all these incredible lessons together. So, what have we learned on this incredible journey? We've seen how a name became a destiny, how challenges became strengths, how compassion became power, how knowledge became action, and how simplicity became freedom. But here's the thing. These aren't just nice stories from the past. They're your blueprint for success and impact today. Whether you're leading a team, building a business, or just trying to become the best version of yourself, these principles work. They've worked for 1,400 years, and they're still working today. And speaking of powerful transformations, points to the upper right corner. If you want to take these lessons even further, you'll definitely want to check out my next video. 3 powerful du'as that will change your life in 30 days. In that video, I'll show you exactly how to apply these principles through specific prayers that have been transforming lives for centuries. Hit that subscribe button now. Drop a comment below sharing which lesson from today's video resonated with you the most. And remember, true success isn't about having it all. It's about making what you have matter. See you in the next video.